Luke Edwards in the Telegraph makes the point about Arsenal. Do the neutrals... Do they really want Arsenal to win the Premier League? And he makes a good point in it. English football needs a strong London club, he says. It needs a proper heavyweight contender. It needs Arsenal to win the Premier League. That is surely the outcome of every neutral, and every neutral must be hoping for. It's the best outcome. Proof that with the right manager and the right recruitment, now we get to it, you can build a team that can beat the financial superpowers of City, United, Chelsea and Liverpool. Is he right?
No.
Be objective, Danny.
I think most people want someone else to win it, but I don't know why he would say Arsenal ahead of Liverpool. Arsenal have spent more money.
Right.
So he wants money to overcome what? Wisdom and good recruitment. I mean, there's the majority of neutrals would be split between who they'd want to win it other than City. But for the good of football, yeah, it'd be great to see someone else win it, and I'd rather see Arsenal win it than City. That's the truth. But the reality is that all neutrals don't want Arsenal to win it. No.
I agree with wrong. But having said that, Simon, I agree with what he says. It would be uplifting. They don't have the financial muscle of City, United, Chelsea, Liverpool.
They've still spent a
and yet
fortune.
they're right in there.
They've spent more than Liverpool.
This is, again, I don't understand that sentiment. I mean, Luke is a good journalist, and he was very active during the time when Newcastle was being taken over and pushing back against the narrative that they shouldn't be. I don't understand this.
How much did Saka cost?
Well, that's an
How much did Trent cost?
Well, yeah. I mean, how much did
how
much Conor Bradley cost?
Martinelli was 5 odd million.
Fine. How much Andy Robertson?
8 million Robertson.
I see you, Andy Robertson, and I raise you Martinelli. I mean, you know where we're going with this.
Endo, 16 million. Declan Rice, 100 million.
And I see your Gakpo, and I raise your Kai Havertz. Right? We can all talk about good and bad deals. Right?
Well, they spent more, so they
spent more. The point is they've spent more. So this argument that somehow the haves and the have-nots, Arsenal have got just as much access to finance. They've got a billionaire owner, the same owner, Stan Kroenke, and the same sort of wealth levels that some of these other guys have got. And they're guarded by the same rules.
But they don't spend it with the same regularity. You could argue, Declan, sure, a fortune.
Ever since the European Super League, Silent Stan has popped up and put his money where his mouth wasn't. Right? And rather than Arsenal being an arm's length extension of the Colorado Rapids or whatever LA Clippers he owns, they've been actually an entity ever since the guy who owned Spotify, Stefan Eck, right? Daniel Eck wanted
Stefan Egg. That was close.
Eck, I said, not egg.
All right.
I was looking at your head. If I said egg, I would have been looking at your head. The point was that there's significant. Know what you're laughing for, Dan?
I thought I got away with that one.
Significant investment into Arsenal to match the spend pattern of the other clubs. So it's a slightly flawed. Now, as a Southerner, do I want to see a Southern club win the Premier League?
Right.
Yeah, of course I do.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Right.
Would I like to see a Midlands club? Yeah, well, of course I would.
Why?
Anybody but a Northern club?
No, not anybody but a Northern club. Anybody but Manchester City dominating
Simon,
it.
It's a weird, Dan. It's a weird thought process. Well, why? Why?
What do I want a bunch of Northerners running off with the league every year for?
There's not a bunch of Northerners who play for the Northern teams.
It's bad enough having you down in the South.
Not a bunch of Cockneys play for the Southern teams. Football's evolved.
But Simon, I'm sure you recognise this, though, mate.
The history of the club.
In terms of the when it comes to the wage bill, Arsenal's is £188 million less than Manchester City.
Right.
City's wage bill.
What is it less than Liverpool?
422 mil. Arsenal 234. It's £130 million less than your beloved Liverpool.
Yeah, but if you factor in what they've spent and then the wages and over a period of time, then you could probably even that out. The reality,
no, you can't.
Not even it out, but it wouldn't be as big as that.
Liverpool spends 61% of the turnover on wages.
Arsenal have always been very economical, and they've always been a club that's been run in a certain way. And only in recent times.
And that's the point. You've just made the point.
Yeah. So what you're saying...
But then you would take Arsenal Liverpool out of the equation, because you would say that if a neutral wants football to win, you want a Leicester story, you want an Aston Villa story.
But it's Arsenal's job to build their revenues. And the reasons why, if Arsenal were at 51% of their turnover, and their turnover was 700 million quid, which is comparable to Man United, they'd be at 350 million quid, something of that nature. So it's relative to what they're actually achieving, and what they're achieving is only getting bigger now because they're achieving more in the league, they're getting back into Europe, and all of these things come into play. So if you look at their percentage of turnover in comparison to Liverpool and Manchester City, Manchester City at 59%, Arsenal's at 51%. Guaranteed, if Arsenal were achieving £500 or £600 million turnover as a result of deep campaigns into the Champions League and bigger sponsorship deals, their wage bill would be bigger. But to go to your point, we're being asked in this conversation to appeal to people to suggest that it would be preferable to Arsenal to win the league because of some narrative that that's a good thing, and ultimately they're doing things wonderfully well. Yeah, I can see some of that, but that's, I think, a slightly naive way of looking at it. I mean, you could make the argument that why don't you have a Midlands club then? Why wouldn't we championing the cause for Aston Villa?
Well, that's what I just said. Villa would be a better story than Arsenal.
But Simon, out of City, United, Liverpool and Chelsea, Arsenal in there, if Arsenal end up winning it, they'd probably be the most organic winner, would they not?
I think it's difficult to make that case when they're spending £250 million on transfer fees. To say that's organic, I think, is a bit of a stretch. I mean, every one of these clubs has got young players. Phil Foden's in the Manchester City side. Every one of these players, the other kid, Riva, what's the kid in the middle of the park that plays for Man City? Forget, it'll come to my mind in a second.
You got Rico Lewis, Oscar Bob.
That's the one.
Riva, okay.
Well, close enough, wasn't it?
All right, Daniel Egg. Okay. Well, Luke Edwards in the Telegraph, thanks for your article. Good luck with it. English football needs a strong London club. Simon, you'd agree with that. You'd agree with that. But you want a London club to win it.
I do, but does it? To say it needs it?
It doesn't.
It doesn't need it, does it? Why does it need it? What's the need in that?
It needs Arsenal to win the Premier League, says Luke.
It needs anybody but Manchester City, not because it's Man City before the whining Man City fans come up with their victims complex. It's more to do with not wanting a monopoly.
Correct.
You want the league to be competitive.
Whoever it is.
The Bundesliga gets won by the Bayern Munich for 11 years in a row. Is there perhaps a surprise that the league isn't as commercially adroit as our one?
Jim White and Simon Jordan. Monday to Friday mornings from 10 on AM, on DAB, via the TalkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. TalkSPORT.